A long time ago, a poor girl, Karen, lived with her mother in a distant village. In the summer she had to walk barefoot, and in the winter in rough wooden shoes, which rubbed her feet terribly. And then one day the old lady shoemaker sewed Karen's shoes from scraps of red cloth.
Wow!
She brought the girl a gift exactly on the day Karen's mother went to heaven. And the poor girl had no choice but to put on new shoes for the funeral. Although red shoes were not at all suitable for mourning, Karen had no others. At this time, a large old carriage was passing through the village, and in it was an important lady. She saw the girl, felt sorry for her and decided to take her home. For many years Karen lived with a lady and never took off her favorite red shoes. But the girl has grown noticeably, and the time has come to buy her new shoes. So, the lady took Karen to the store. The lady was already old, and therefore could not see the correct pair of shoes. Then she asked Karen to choose the most modest black shoes to wear to church. But in the shop window there were bright red shoes. They were exactly like the ones that the shoemaker had once made for Karen. And so the girl told the lady that she had chosen the simplest shoes, and the mistress gladly paid for them. Sunday came, and the old lady ordered Karen to get ready for church. The mistress told the girl to dress modestly and restrainedly. But Karen so wanted to put on new shoes that she could not resist, and went to church in red shoes. And all the people in the service every now and then looked at Karen's feet. After dinner, the lady learned from the people that Karen had come in red shoes. The lady could not stand the shame and decided to go home early. But an old soldier was waiting for them at the church gate.
Hello.
He bowed deeply to the ladies, saw the red shoes, and began to praise them as never before.
Nice.
Karen danced with delight. And then her legs began to dance by themselves, as if the shoes had some kind of magical power. The girl was frightened, wanted to throw off her shoes, but they were tight. The shoes were firmly attached to her feet. And Karen had to dance. She danced through the fields and meadows, in the rain and in sunny weather, both at night and during the day. And then one night the girl found herself on the edge of the forest. It was dark and scary all around. Then suddenly a white light blinded Karen. It was an angel in a long white robe. Behind his shoulders were large wings that descended to the very ground.
No.
He looked at the girl sternly and said that for her deceit, pride and disobedience, she would dance for eternity, until she dries up like a mummy. Before Karen had time to say a word, the shoes grabbed her and led her on. For a long time, the girl's shoes were worn over the stones, through the thicket and thorn bushes.
Oh no!
Sharp thorns dug into Karen's legs and scratched them bloody. And then she danced to the small secluded house of the forester. The girl sat down on the porch and cried bitterly. She managed to repent of her disobedience and most of all wanted to apologize to the lady. When the forester heard the girl crying, he took pity on her and decided to help. Then he took silver scissors and cut the red shoes.
Cool!
Karen was overjoyed to be able to control her legs again. Now, more than anything, she wanted to go home. The girl thanked the forester, and he presented her with his daughter's old wooden shoes. Putting on her shoes, Karen thanked her rescuer again and ran home. So, she raced through the fields, making her way through the forests day and night, until she saw the outline of her house.
Wow!
Then the girl gathered her last strength and rushed to the entrance. She ran into the drawing room, where sat a sad lady, who had been mourning her named daughter all week. Seeing Karen, the mistress beamed with joy.
Oh yeah!
The girl threw herself into the arms of her wet nurse, and began to apologize for her disobedience. Of course, the mistress forgave Karen, and the girl promised never to deceive anyone again. Once upon a time, a king lived in a distant country. And he had 11 sons and one daughter, Eliza. The royal children lived well and carefree until their stepmother appeared in their lives. No one knew that the new queen was an evil witch. She hated the king's children, always complained about them, and dreamed of expelling them from the castle. The evil queen slandered poor children so much that soon the king himself began to believe her words. First, he sent his daughter away to be raised in a nearby village. There she was destined to live up to 15 years. The evil queen wanted to send the boys away too, but they were still too young. Therefore, the father left them in the castle. And then one day an evil sorceress made her way into the children's room and put a spell on the sons of the king. She turned them into 11 wild swans and then opened the window. And the boys who became birds flew out of the castle. Years passed, and Eliza turned 15. On this day, she returned to the palace. While waiting for the king's arrival, the girl met her stepmother, who was angry that the princess would now live in the palace. And Eliza, tired from the road, did not notice how she fell asleep. Having chosen the right moment, the queen entered the room and put a spell on the girl. Suddenly, the princess's hair became dirty and unkempt, and her face changed and darkened. At this time, the king returned to the castle. He missed his daughter and dreamed of meeting her. Entering the room, the king saw that the girl on the princess's bed was not at all like his daughter. He got angry and ordered to expel the stranger from the castle. Eliza had to spend the night in the forest. In the morning she washed in the pond, the spell was asleep, and the girl again became a beauty. Immediately she met a kind old woman. She told the princess that every evening she sees 11 swans in golden crowns by the river. Then Eliza went to the water. At sunset, swans flew there, which at that very moment turned into her brothers. They immediately recognized Princess Eliza and hugged her. The brothers told the girl that the evil stepmother had bewitched them. And now every morning they turn into swans, and at night they return to their true appearance. In the morning, the brothers turned into swans again and took Eliza with them, placing the girl in a basket of willow bark. The princess was happy to fly through the sky with her brothers. It seemed to her that it was a beautiful dream, and soon she fell asleep for real. In a dream, the fairy of the castle appeared to her, who told how you can save the brothers. Eliza had to pick some nettles and weave 11 shirts for the brothers, but not say anything, otherwise the brothers would disappear forever. The next morning, the girl began to collect nettles. The grass burned her hands, but Eliza continued to pluck it. Suddenly the girl was noticed by a handsome prince hunting nearby. He was fascinated by the beauty of the princess and went up to her to say hello.
Hello?
But Eliza remembered what the fairy said and therefore did not say a word. The prince was struck by the silence of the forest beauty, so he soon took her as his wife and took her to his castle. While spending days in the palace, the princess continued to secretly weave nettle shirts. But one day the prince's advisor saw Eliza doing this. He spread rumors that the princess was a magician at night and should have been arrested. Over time, the prince also believed that his wife was a witch. Then he ordered his soldiers to imprison the girl in prison. However, even in prison, the young princess continued to weave shirts. Finally the day came when Eliza finished sewing the last shirt. At that moment, the dungeon door opened and the princess was taken to trial. They decided to sentence the poor girl to death. And at that moment, when the judge read out the verdict, 11 swans descended from heaven. Eliza pulled shirts from under her skirt and threw them over the birds. Her brothers immediately became human. But the princess did not have enough nettles for the sleeves for the last shirt, so the younger brother had swan wings instead of arms. Then the brothers told their story. And the prince, who deeply believed in his wife's innocence, asked Eliza for forgiveness. The princess immediately forgave her husband. Finally, the brothers were free and Eliza was happy. Together they returned to the castle. The father recognized his children and for many years could not forgive himself for allowing his stepmother to deceive him. And the evil sorceress herself turned into a crow and flew away, never to return to the castle.